picture across the West Midlands, but yes, generally compared to England as a whole, there are fewer places available for parents and carers to put their child into childcare, so that is a concern.
So let's just set out what we're talking about here with childcare provision, because what age are we talking about? Preschool age and all different kinds of provision as well?
That's right, yes. It's quite a complicated field in terms of lots of different sorts of provision for children, but what all these different sorts of provision do, would be it a nursery or a childcare provision, that they work with children to socialise them, to start their communication and get them ready for school. So from our perspective, access to childcare places is a really important foundation to get children ready for their time in schools.
But of course we don't have a system now where everyone feeds into the same sort of nurseries or the same preschools, and they're all run by lots and lots and lots of different private providers. Some of them are big private providers, some of them are independent private providers, some of them are attached to schools, some of them are. It's a hugely, it's like, as you say, complex field of provision, but you've looked at it overall and you've seen that let's talk about Walsall. You've described it as a desert, and that is actually the technical term you use, a childcare desert.
That's right, yes. What we're finding in the childcare deserts, families are struggling to access that high quality childcare provision that we know exists. And these are more likely to be in areas experiencing lower incomes or higher levels of child poverty. And we know from our work generally that children who are vulnerable benefit the most from their early years education and then moving into their education. So it is a definite concern if children aren't able to access the places that they need.
So why aren't they able to access them? Is this purely because they're not there? So there's just not as many providers, or for whatever reason it's not happening in those parts of the country? Let's talk about Walsall again. Or is it that they're too expensive for people? What's the picture? Why is there a desert?
I think there are lots of different issues which lead to there being more places in some parts of the West Midlands than others, and I think one of the issues that providers have is recruiting and retraining and retaining the staff that they need in order to run the number of places. So that's definitely one factor. One reason why staff perhaps don't want to be working in childcare is more competitive incomes from other places. Another factor might be the lack of courses to train people to work in childcare. So they could be some of the reasons. One thing Ofsted is doing is speeding up and streamlining the process by which childcare providers can register. One of our responsibilities in terms of regulating childcare is to make sure that the settings are suitable and safe, and that all the staff are appropriate to work at them. So when a provider is becoming registered, we get involved with them. So we're going to speed that process up and make sure that all the information that people need to register is available to them. But just to reassure everybody who's listening, speeding up that process isn't going to lead to a decline in sort of the rigour or the standards that we expect. We know it's really important for parents and carers that childcare settings are really safe for their children. So we'll continue to do that, but just try and speed the process up to help registration.
Well, yeah, something needs to happen, doesn't it? Because I'm just looking at this list, and so England, the average is 26.1, and again, the way numbers work, obviously, 0.1 of a child, but 26.1 places for every 100 children, which still doesn't sound very much to me. There's still quite a lack there, really, although not everyone will want to put their children into provision, obviously, but 26.1 is the average, and Birmingham's 22.1, so it's not too bad. It is under, though. And then you're looking at, you go right down to 12.9 for Walsall, which obviously is the one we're talking about. That means it's a desert. Wolverhampton's not much better at 14.3. Sandwell is 17. Dudley is 17.7. It's really noticeably worse in the West Midlands. And what can people be doing to improve it? I mean, you've just talked about Ofsted. Is enough being done by bodies like yours and by the government?
one thing we do is meet regularly with local authorities who have sort of an oversight of the number of children who want places within their local authority areas and the number of places that are available, and these colleagues sort of project into the future. They look at the birth rates, they look at movement and migration within their area, and they work with providers to facilitate the opportunities to help them either increase the number of children that they can take in existing settings or to open new settings. So for example, there's some work at the moment to encourage settings to open up in existing primary schools. So the buildings, the facilities are there, so to register an early years setting actually on that premises. So different organisations, different parts of the education and care sector are working together to try and address this.
Thank you very much for joining us. I know it's part of a wider survey, there's a wider look at lots of things like SEND. It was, again, the number of children with special educational needs continues to increase. There's a very strange system that we know about, that you talk about, and the number of children's homes registered with Ofsted has sharply increased, but doesn't always reflect demand. So there's a lot in this report, but we haven't got time to get into all of it, but we really thought that childcare provision was important to talk about. Thank you, Rob, for joining us today.
Thanks.